Hello, everybody. Nick Morgeson here from the Empty the Bench Podcast Network. Here to react to another interesting story going on in the world of sports. And it's the drama Charles Barkley versus Kendrick Perkins and ESPN. So, everyone's probably wondering all the drama that is going on currently. And it goes back to Kendrick Perkins on First Take, where if you know all the drama goes down and there's a lot of issues that happen on First Take because Stephen A knows how to stir up everything, which leads to views and more drama going on. And Kendrick Perkins goes on First Take and basically says that the Lakers have saved the NBA this season. And that led to a lot of drama going down. And it led to a lot of loud opinions going on around the world of the NBA. And it's just one of those things that made me scratch my head and I wanted to react to it because it's amazing how Charles Barkley, who came out on TNT and Inside the NBA and decided, you know what? Excuse me, as I'm trying not to lose my voice. You know what? I'm going to call Kendrick Perkins and ESPN a bunch of fools because my opinion is louder than everybody else's. And it led a lot of people to be angry and upset. And you know what? It caused everybody to say, you know what? Is Kendrick Perkins a dummy or not? And personally, I'm not the biggest fan of Kendrick Perkins. I find him to be a little bit of a loudmouth, and I find him to be a little bit annoying at times because I feel like sometimes he's just doing stuff for attention more than being an analyst on ESPN. But it's just one of those things where you're just like, guys, enough already. It's too much drama. You guys are going to be working together at one point. And it's stupid. It's incredibly stupid that media members fight with each other just because they decided, well, I don't like your point, or I don't like what your specific point is. And you know what? I feel like Stephen A, who came out and quote tweeted the Charles Barkley quote from Inside the NBA. Listen to this, because I just laughed when I saw this. And he said, yo, Chuck, this is Stephen A. Smith on Twitter. Yo, Chuck, stop the BS with the y'all. Attach a name to it. I know I've been talking about the Cavs being the number one threat to the Celtics. Once you come over here, there's going to be some folks waiting to call you a fool. P.S. You know I love you, though. See you all soon. So what is this, WWE? What is this, like fake fighting just so we can make attention on social media? Like, I'd rather this be real and sincere rather than fake fighting like the WWE. That's what I don't like about this. And they're going to be on the same team, for crying out loud. Act like you guys care. That's the dumb bullshit thing that we're hearing in this situation. We're fighting over an opinion. So, all right. So Kendrick Perkins said that he thought the Lakers were saving the NBA. Okay. That's one man's opinion. Who cares? And Charles Barkley, whose mouth runs flappeth for days, and don't get me wrong, I like guys who have their opinion. But to call somebody a fool because you don't like their opinion? Come on. That's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous thing to say. And Charles Barkley at times just causes unnecessary drama for no reason. He's always looking to call out everybody because Charles Barkley thinks he's the smartest person on the planet. but he's not the smartest person on the planet. He's just a jerk and an asshole. I know Charles Barkley has been great on Inside the NBA. I know that he has been part of that ensemble for a very long time, but he couldn't hold a show by himself. He couldn't. He'd never be able to hold a show by himself. It's just one of those things that makes me scratch my head where I'm just like, dude, come on. You're going to be working for the goddamn company soon because TNT lost its rights to the NBA. So this is going to be your start for technically working for ESPN. You're going to call ESPN a bunch of fools, and you're going to call Kendrick Perkins a fool. Now, let me be clear. And I agree what Kendrick Perkins said was out of pocket. It was definitely out of pocket. The Lakers have not saved the NBA. Let's calm down on that front. But what I will say is, look at Cleveland. Look at the Cavs. Look at the OKC Thunder. That's where Charles Barkley was right. We should be giving credit to the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are on a 12-game winning streak. We should be giving credit to the Oklahoma City Thunder with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who is going to be the MVP of the NBA for this year. That's what we should be giving credit to currently at this point in time. But no, we're having a stupid argument about whose media point is better. Who knows more NBA? That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. And Stephen A should keep his mouth shut, to be quite honest, because I find it laughable that he's trying to defend ESPN when all he's worried about is his contract. But Charles Barkley versus Kendrick Perkins is even more laughable, and their two are going to be working together under the same company very soon. All because Warner Brothers Discovery didn't keep the NBA rights, and now that they have a licensing deal between Warner Brothers Discovery and ESPN, these two have to work near each other. I wouldn't say together because they probably won't be. And if I'm ESPN, I wouldn't touch Inside the NBA because Inside the NBA is the product that we know today that is the most consistent NBA studio show in the business. But I'm more laughing at this that Charles Barkley decided to take on Kendrick Perkins. And by the way, every fight that Charles Barkley has with a former player or a current player does not end up working in his favor, which is what I find hilarious. It doesn't work. It absolutely does not work one iota. And that's what I find hilarious because Charles had a good career, never won a title, never had a chance. He's always getting beat up by Shaq and Kenny and all those guys. Charles is a good personality. Yes. You don't have to question me on that front. I get it. But to call Kendrick Perkins an idiot, which there are times Kendrick Perkins can be a little out of pocket and flaunting for views, I feel like at times. But for the direct quote to say, I saw a fool, idiot on TV, saying the Lakers saved the NBA. He's an idiot and a fool, but he knows who he is. When Shaq failed to say, Barkley said Kendrick Perkins before going deep into criticisms of both Perkins and ESPN. And then he goes on to the quote say, he said the Lakers, first of all, the Lakers have had 2 great weeks. I happen to agree with Charles on that one. I wouldn't say they're saving the NBA. They just have had a really good 2 to 3 weeks. And it's helped them, for the Lakers' sake, to be better. It hasn't helped the NBA. Of course, the NBA has been obsessed covering LeBron getting a combination of 50,000 points between the NBA regular season and the playoffs. But I wouldn't say the Lakers are saving the NBA. That's like reaching for straws. And what Charles also made a good point saying, like, ESPN, all they're talking about for the most part is the Lakers and the Warriors. It's true. ESPN gets a little too semi-focused on the major market teams like the Lakers and the Warriors who've won titles. Hence, the Dallas Cowboys during the NFL season. ESPN talks more about the Dallas Cowboys than any other NFL team that's out there. As Stephen A. He'd rather talk about hating on the Dallas Cowboys than talking about a team that's doing really good in the sport. Again, we're not talking about the Cleveland Cavaliers. We're not talking about the Oklahoma City Thunder. We should be talking about those two teams. But again, we're getting in a stupid debate over the Los Angeles Lakers, whether they saved the NBA. And we all know that's not true. We know that's not true. We should be thanking our lucky stars that we have a good Cleveland Cavaliers team, that we have a good Oklahoma City Thunder team. Those two teams are stacked and ready for the future for many, many years to come. But Charles Barkley and Kendrick Perkins fighting over something stupid like the Lakers is stupid. And I feel like Charles Barkley reminds me of like a wind-up toy where you just keep turning the key and turning the key. And then when you let it go, it jumps and runs all over the place and it could fall off the table. That's what Charles Barkley is. He's a wind-up toy with a turn key. You turn him up, and when he has a loud opinion, just let the turn key spin around like wild, and he'll go all wild. He'll scream and yell and call people fools and idiots. And when the opinion's all done and the turn key stops turning, he'll either stop moving or he'll fall off the table and hit the ground. So I feel like this whole argument was dumb. I think Kendrick Perkins was wrong for saying that the Lakers are saving the NBA. But I just find it funny also that Charles doesn't care if he burns any bridges. Because Inside the NBA is going to be licensed and airing on ESPN starting next NBA season. But that's quite obvious. Charles has never cared about the company he works for. He's going to have the loudest opinion he can have. And if it makes the company look bad, he doesn't care. He is going to say what he wants to say. And if people like it, good. If they don't like it, screw you. That's what he thinks. And I don't think Charles had to overreact to this whole situation. I think that it's almost like he was looking to make headlines, which is why it doesn't make any sense. And it was all over social media. Now, it didn't help that ESPN aggregated it to death. But just think about everything and what ESPN's more of an agitator than an aggregator. And I found the Kendrick Perkins tweet so he probably was watching the whole thing as it went down. So Kendrick Perkins says, "Hey, at NBA on TNT, might want to tell that senior citizen Charles Barkley that I'll be around. When he see an idiot or a fool in person, make sure he keep that same energy. He can come playing with me if he want to, and I'm address his ass like the numbers on a house. Straight from the 409, homeboy, and we bar none and fade all." So obviously Kendrick Perkins is not standing down from this whole scenario. Kendrick Perkins is almost looking for a fight. And I don't blame him. No one wants to be called a fool or an idiot on TV. I guarantee all the people watching right now, if someone called you a fool or an idiot on TV, everyone would dislike it. No one wants their credibility messed up. It's just facts. And Charles Barkley can rub people the wrong way. That's a fact. But at the same time, I think that's the charm of Charles Barkley at the same time, that he's going to rub people the wrong way. Some people are not going to like it, but then there are some people that are going to like it. And you know what? I like his opinions from time to time. But this one was just unnecessary. And I think that was, and this was a whole silly joke that and Kendrick Perkins had to know, by the way, that by saying that eventually it was going to get aggregated and agitated by ESPN and other platforms. I'm checking to see if First Take and their social media actually were the ones that aggregated it or not. But yeah, see, I'm on First Take's Twitter account. It looks like they were not really the one to do it. But Awful Announcing, which is a site I like, really put a hammer to it, and then it kind of blew up on its own. And this whole thing, and I'm going to keep saying it a million times, stupid. This whole thing could have been avoided. See, look at this. So NBA on TNT obviously blew it up in agitation. They could have put this to bed, but no. The NBA on TNT, and they're totally right on their social media front. Let's put it out there so that everybody takes Charles's side and make Kendrick Perkins look like a giant clown. And I'm just reading through some of the reactions, but again, it doesn't help your case when inside the NBA is going to go to ESPN and you're already calling them idiots, assholes, and fools because you don't like something that Kendrick Perkins said. Doesn't help his case. Doesn't help the media as a whole. And it just looks dumb when media members take on other media members. Like, what is there to gain by fighting other media members? I never understood what having a brawl meant and what the purpose of this was, and what being the agitator meant. Or maybe Kendrick Perkins knew what he said or his rant was going to get aggregated and agitated by ESPN to the point where Charles Barkley was going to see it. Maybe they were looking for the reaction. Or this is more conspiracy, and I don't really believe in conspiracy theories, but maybe could you see a scenario that they knew that they're going to be working together and maybe they were stirring up an argument just to get views on both sides? I'm not saying that that's anywhere near fact, so don't quote me or take my word on that. But with the two sides working together, maybe they're trying to drum up views from a partnership perspective. I don't know. But I just think, and I'm not really as angry about this. I'm more laughing at it from a standpoint of, like, really, guys? Like, this is the thing you're going to argue over? This is the thing you're going to say, you know what? I'm going to call him a fool. I'm going to call him a jerk. I'm going to make Kendrick Perkins look awful. Which, by the way, Kendrick Perkins doesn't care. Kendrick Perkins is not going to stand down to anyone, as I read to you in that tweet. And by the way, Charles should have just said Kendrick's name right up front because everybody knew what was being talked about. And that's what the answer should be. The media is sometimes an egotistical place. I shouldn't say sometimes, it always is an egotistical place. And sometimes the media doesn't like what other media members say, which blows it up. Now, I get from a standpoint when anything is said on first take, it's blown up a million times more than any other platform because there are people who hate watch first take. There are people who hate watch ESPN and Stephen A. Smith because they just want to they want to be able to have a loud opinion, call out everything that's being said. And that way they can drop their own video reaction or quote tweet or do anything in their power to get attention. That's my point. So just take into perspective that Charles Barkley versus Kendrick Perkins and ESPN is just all fun and games. But at the same time, it just didn't need to happen. And just move on with your day at this point because it's another ridiculous argument. It's another ridiculous situation. And usually when ESPN is an agitator, and in this case, Kendrick Perkins, I don't think they were agitating anything. I think Charles Barkley woke up on the wrong side of the bed and just said, all right, you knuckleheads, I'm going to call out my prospective employer, even though he's going to be contracted to WBD. But he's going to be working through a licensing agreement with ESPN as an employer. It was just a blow up. And people need to grow up, including Charles Barkley and Kendrick Perkins. It's a petty argument. That's all it is. That's all it was. But, well, I'm sure we're going to hear more about this. And Kendrick Perkins and Charles Barkley are going to fight. And you know what? Hey, Barstool, let's get a rough and rowdy out of this. Hey, we almost had Patrick Mahomes Sr. and I forgot who the other guy's name was at the moment. But that would have been an incredible fight. But, John Rocker. We almost had Patrick Mahomes Sr. versus John Rocker on Rough and Rowdy for Barstool. Let's get Charles Barkley and Kendrick Perkins. I mean, instead of hiding behind screens and social media accounts, why don't we just handle this in person? I'm not saying fight. Let me be very clear about that. Number one, I don't promote violence in any way, shape, or form. So let me be very clear about that. But I'm saying go on each other's shows and debate it and stop hiding behind social media. I'm serious. Because the rest of this is petty. It's petty. It's garbage. And Charles Barkley just burns every bridge he's on, even though no employers fire him. Which is hilarious. But you never know these days what's going to go on in this wild, wacky world of sports media. All right, that'll do it for another live stream here on the Empty the Bench podcast network. Make sure you follow our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ETB network. Please follow, like, and subscribe as we get closer to 1,000 subscribers. It would be appreciated. Make sure you go over to our ETB Network Substack, etbnetwork.substack.com. Please go subscribe. It's $5 a month or $60 for the year. I promise you it's worth it. Please go over and check that out as well. And that'll do it for another live stream. I'm Nick Morgeson, co-host of Empty the Bench on the Empty the Bench podcast network. Our our next episode next week. Obviously, you know that. We just dropped episode 269. So go listen to that if you haven't done it. And that'll do it. I'll see everybody next time.